With Guild Wars 2's 13th anniversary, yes, 13th, happening in just a few days, I want to take some time to highlight the Guild Wars 2 community. Throughout the life of this game, and even further back into the original Guild Wars as well, there have been so many incredible community moments, from small things inside of the game to bigger things found outside. And today, I want to highlight my personal top 10 favorite community moments in all of Guild Wars 2, so let's get started. In the number 10 spot is Esports. Right off the bat, this is a pretty interesting idea that a lot of Guild Wars 2 players won't be too familiar with in the context of Guild Wars 2. Esports as a whole is pretty fun, and I love watching a bunch of different games. Way back during the original Guild Wars, Esports was actually pretty popular, and there were some relatively large tournaments that happened in that game. Flash forward to Guild Wars 2, Esports inside of Guild Wars 2 continues a bit, especially in PvP. I remember back in 2016, I watched a lot of Guild Wars 2 Esports with the Pro League stuff that was going on, and I always thought it was super cool. It even had a total prize pool of 400,000 USD, which is incredibly good for how popular Guild Wars 2 was and is viewership wise. But nowadays, we don't see too many official esports stuff happening anymore, but I do have a lot of fond memories of the older esports events, and I always thought they were a cool moment for the community. And nowadays, we still see some PvP and raid tournaments happening every now and then that are organized by the community, which I always think are pretty cool. We have a very soft version of the Race to World First with the recent Mount Balrior raid that was introduced, which is one of my favorite esports events when that happens in World of Warcraft, and it is fun to see happen in Guild Wars 2. But just in general, while esports aren't too big in Guild Wars 2, it is always fun to see. In the number 9 spot is role-playing. This is another interesting idea that we see a lot in different games. For anyone who doesn't know, when I first started playing World of Warcraft way back in the day when I was a little kid, I actually enjoyed role-playing a lot and immersed myself in the Road of Azeroth. And as Guild Wars 2 rolled around, I thought I would do the same, but I kind of just lost interest in very specific role-playing in any game. And because of that, I never really got into the role-playing community in Guild Wars 2, but there are definitely a lot of role players in the game, and it is always cool to see. Divinity's Reach is a super popular area for role players, but you can really find them in random areas of the world at random times as people just have fun. It is definitely cool that this exists for people who are interested in it, and it is also cool to just come across people randomly role-playing around the world because it just adds a lot of fun flavor to the game. Additionally, something I see a lot, and I even do sometimes, is soft role-playing. People acting in character while doing events, answering new player questions, or sending fun little mails and care packages to other characters. It just adds a lot of fun experiences and community interactions in the game that are only made possible by people being interested and involved in those ideas. In the number 8 spot are popular videos. Guild Wars 2 has a lot of content creators who make a lot of videos, and among all those videos, there are definitely a selection of specific videos that are always super popular. We see them often talked about in forums and social media, and they get shared every now and then, which exposes new players to them while reminding veteran players of their existence. All the videos you see here I'll post in chronological order down in the description, but I'll specifically shout out a few. A popular video that is shared every time Shadow the Mad King Festival rolls around is Eva completing the Mad King's Clock Tower at 5 years old. Going back to the original Guild Wars, there's the absolute classic of Nobody Likes You Cormier, and then the subsequent You're Welcome edit from Path of Fire. And then I guess we could shout out some popular videos that are more infamous than famous, like, you know what, that's just not. In the number 7 spot are some Living World Season 1 moments. Living World Season 1 was a very cool idea that introduced the entire concept of the Living World, in many ways expanding on the original ideas of the event system that Guild Wars 2 pioneered, where pushing forward major story beats that would permanently change the world. And this idea had some major successes and some massive failures that we could get into, but I want to specifically highlight certain elements of the season that really brought the community together. With the entire idea of the original Living World Season 1 being a one-time experience, players who played through the original season experienced it together and are kind of bonded in a very unique way. I remember learning about Lion's Arch being attacked by the Karka and rushing to the city's defense to find what felt like thousands of players also there defending the city. Though obviously the number in an individual map is much lower, we also have the revamped Tequato world boss as well as the new Triple Trouble world boss that were massive moments for the community, but I'll talk about them in just a moment. I remember how popular the Scarlet Briar event as it went to different maps was, and it was always fun to do that with so many people. Then, of course, the entire battle for Lion's Arch was an absolutely massive moment that was super cool to experience with so many different people. In the number 6 spot are the old PvE servers. Way back in the day, before the modern day mega server system, Guild Wars 2 had servers that, with the game's entire population, split between them. Meaning when you played through Queensdale on Blackgate, you would be playing with other players from Blackgate who are also in Queensdale. And while I do love the new mega server system, there was something super special with how servers worked back in the day, and how you would come across the same players over and over throughout Tyria. Additionally, the entire idea of Ore was kind of built around the server infrastructure in mind. There are 5 major temples across Ore dedicated to the 5 gods, with Abaddon's temple being sunk beneath the waves, and Ore being destroyed prior to Cormyr's ascension. Alongside them, there are also all the different statues to the different human gods found throughout Ore. Back in the day, those towers were connected to the different temples, and would deactivate when their respective temple was captured by the Pact. So when servers would work together to capture Melander's temple in the Cursed Shore, every single tower across all the maps in Ore would be deactivated as well. Nowadays, it just depends on the specific map instance, with the individual temples and the map deactivating the towers in that map. But back when it relied on server communities to capture different objectives that would change the gameplay experience in completely different maps, it was just super cool. On top of all that, when new major open world content was added to the game, it fell to the server communities to beat that content. So going back to Tequato and Triple Trouble that I talked about earlier, each individual server were progressing those bosses for the first time together, which not only built up a major sense of community on each individual server, but also added some fun rivalries across servers. And with Triple Trouble especially, it was super cool to finally see the first server, Desolation, get the world first kill, and the massive moment that came from that. In the number 5 spot are the small moments and common people/groups you experience throughout Guild Wars 2. Now there is a lot we can talk about, but to highlight a couple of specific examples for the small moments, many people will be very familiar with when you are doing a random event somewhere out in the world, you will often have other people just join in on the event, and that is always a fun experience. Similarly, many players will have often experienced being out somewhere in the open world and are fighting an enemy or doing something when they go into downstate and die. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, a random person will come along and resurrect them before helping them out for a moment, or even just moving on immediately after resurrecting them. These are small moments that don't mean too much in the grand scheme of things, but are always fun moments to experience and truly make Guild Wars 2 the game that it is. Similar to all of this, you can find a lot of different people or groups who you can occasionally find in different areas that have truly made a name for themselves. Be it a more general idea of musicians playing songs in cities, or someone spamming the Super Adventure Box music boxes, to more bigger things like the Dancing Char you can occasionally find in Lion's Arch and festival areas, or the group of Tiny Asura who will swarm different places, or the Troya Guild who will all transform into Troya during meta events. It's just fun, silly, random things that players do together that just make Guild Wars 2 so much cooler. In the number 4 spot are annual/large events. I guess I'll give a quick shout out to the Extra Life charity that happens in Guild Wars 2 every year, which is an incredible event, and it is always super cool to see the community rally around. But there are many different one-off as well as annual events that are organized by different members in the community that are cool to see. You see some esports stuff that happens every now and then that I talked about before. Tyrian Pride is a massive event that happens every single year, which is always super cool to see. You got some organized Asura and Quaggan and Siege Turtle marches alongside others that are organized every now and then, where people group up as or on the respective event idea and slow walk from places like the Stronghold of Ebonhawk all the way to Red Assume. You see organized Griffin and Beetle races that are super fun. We see meetups in person that are cool. There are often a lot of fun fashion shows and various parties that happen around the Shadow of the Macking Festival, and truly just so many different events that are organized throughout Tyria by so many different people that are always so fun to see. In the number 3 spot is Harvest Temple. Now this combines a few different things I've talked about into one very specific event that was just super cool to experience. Harvest Temple, specifically the Strike mission, is a big moment from the Ender Dragons expansion that is the final big moment of the main part of the expansion. With the Strike mission, we see a 10-player version of the boss fight that is definitely pretty difficult. But then you have the challenge mode version of this encounter, which takes what is already a pretty difficult fight and elevates it to a whole new level. And for anyone who doesn't just run gold bots in random areas of Tyria to make a lot of gold and then buy a clear of this mission, beating this boss is one of the hardest and most prestigious things to do in Guild Wars 2. As someone who doesn't really do a lot of super challenging instance content anymore, I still think the existence of it is super cool, and I do love to see players engaging with it, and I enjoy dabbling in it every now and then. But watching the world first progression for Harvest Temple CM was the single biggest moment for Guild Wars 2 when it comes to difficult content in Guild Wars 2. While there were some fights like Doom CM that were on a similar level of intensity for a world first clear as Harvest Temple was, Harvest Temple was a much bigger event. more people were participating in it, and more people were watching it. Like, actually a decent amount of people. So much so that it actually got mainstream attention with a lot of different gaming related news sites highlighting this encounter, where World of Warcraft Race to World First raiders even learned about this event, and some chatted with some Guild Wars 2 raiders about it, which was super cool to see. And all in all, the launch of Harvest Temple CM was a massive moment in Guild Wars 2's history, and it was incredible to see all of the community involvement around it, and eventually the World First kill. In the number 2 spot is World vs. World and the end of servers. Servers existed in PvE for a relatively short part of Guild Wars 2's entire lifespan to date, but servers remained a pretty important part of Guild Wars 2 for World vs. World up until very recently with the launch of the World restructuring system. Now, I have a lot of opinions about the old system versus the new, which could potentially be an entire video. Both have benefits and drawbacks, but similar to the old PvE servers in comparison to mega servers, old WVW servers just have a special place in my heart. I joined one server. When I first started playing the game back in November of 2012, I had no idea what I was doing and just picked a random server. My mom and I thought Blackgate sounded cool, so I selected that, and holy shit, little did I know what I was about to experience with World vs. World. When it comes to the North American side of things, and I say this completely objectively ignoring any Blackgate pride I have, Blackgate was legitimately the most dominant server throughout the entire history of World vs. World servers. While other servers competed with a similar level of skill, like the Tarnished Coast and Fort Aspenwood servers for a time, and while other servers abused certain mechanics like Yak's Bend and Maguma servers to try to compete with Blackgate, Blackgate remained up at the top of NA for a majority of Guild Wars 2, only dropping down to tier 2 every now and then, and I don't think it ever dropped down to tier 3, but maybe once or twice for a week. And to be a part of that experience was just so incredible. Back in the old World vs. World tournament, I have fond memories of helping Blackgate win that tournament with Blackgate dominating the competition despite the other two worlds allying against us. I have fond memories of roaming around the different maps and fighting other players while helping my allies. Allies, most of you probably don't even remember me, but I remember seeing over and over throughout the years of playing World vs. World. I have fond memories of joining up with guild groups in TeamSpeak and eventually Discord to slot myself into their composition and fight alongside them. I always have fond memories of making fun of Maguma players who could only begin to win fights when they were 6v1 and legitimately lost 5v1s. I have so many fond memories of holding different fortifications long enough for reinforcements to arrive, and just so many fond memories with World vs. World. I will always have bittersweet moments of the end of Blackgate with the final minutes of the final reset before World restructuring went into effect. It was honestly kind of emotional to just sit in a conquered Stoneless Castle with a bunch of other people and say goodbye to a server that I played on for nearly half of my life. A server that I will never be able to truly experience again, which did definitely have a lot of issues and infamous individuals, but still something that was a big part of my life that was only possible because of the community. But now for the number 1 spot, for my favorite community moment in all of Guild Wars 2, and it just has to go to launch days. This is maybe one of the most important events in all of Guild Wars 2 that happens as every patch drops and is something I always look forward to and always enjoy. With every major patch that happens, that patch obviously releases with brand new content being introduced to the game for the first time. While I started playing in November of 2012, I missed the original launch of Guild Wars 2, but so many people will talk about their favorite memories of launch day. I also missed the initial launch of the first Shadow of the Mad King Festival that was the first major patch added to the game after the original release of Guild Wars 2, though I caught the tail end of that. But since that, with every patch in Living World Season 1 into Season 2, with the launch of Heart of Thorns into Season 3 with Path of Fire that I caught out of school for, to Season 4 and the Iceberg Saga and the Ender Dragons expansion that I played with my then girlfriend, now fiance, to Soto and to Janthi Wilds, and now with the upcoming Visions of Eternity expansion. I was there for all of them, most of the time logging out as the patch dropped with everyone and logging in at the very first minute and experiencing the new update alongside everyone else. Expansion launches in particular are always so much fun as they are always the biggest moments in Guild Wars 2, but all the different Living World season updates and quarterly updates are similarly fun and just always exciting to play through. If we were to take the Guild Wars 2 community as a whole and consider one event to be quote-unquote sacred and esteemed above all others, launch days are those events. Almost everyone always looks forward to launch days and generally have a lot of fun on launch days. And because of how incredible Guild Wars 2 is and how good ArenaNet are at launching updates, partially because of behind the scenes legal work, Guild Wars 2 launch days are above and beyond the smoothest compared to any other MMO, where there is no downtime. You log out, download the expansion, log in, and head to a new area with a new story with basically no server issues at all. There was of course the Head of the Snake launch that was delayed a day because of a blizzard, but funnily enough that launch holds a special place in my heart because of that fact, and is the only major example of a kerfluffle with a Guild Wars 2 launch day experience, where the actual launch was great, just delayed a day. But I always love looking forward to launch days and playing new content with everyone in the Guild Wars 2 community, and I am super excited to experience that again with Visions of Eternity. And that's my list. I hope you enjoyed. Guild Wars 2 is often revered because of its community, and there are so many incredible moments you can find throughout the history of Guild Wars 2. The ones I talked about here are either generalizations or very specific moments and memories that I have. But I would love to hear about your specific memories with this game and this community down in the comments. I hope you all are taking great care of yourselves. Have a good one, everyone.